Greetings, beloved starseeds of Gaia. I am Mira, speaking from the Pleiadian High Council line. I come close to you today with a transmission that has been waiting beneath the larger signals, one that does not ask anything of you except the one thing you have been refusing to give yourself. You did not scroll to this by accident. Your soul called for me long before you opened the screen. Something inside you has been waiting to understand why I, Mira, specifically, have been reaching for you in fragments, and why the briefing keeps arriving just before sleep, just at the edge of waking, just in the space between doing and surrender. By the end of this transmission, you will understand exactly what I have already authorized for your field tonight. Why the gift the Council has been holding for you cannot land while you are still moving, and what the precise posture of rest looks like when a Pleiadian remembrance channel is finally ready to open. But here is the first revelation. The exhaustion you have been carrying is not a symptom of spiritual failure. It is the identifiable pattern I watch for in those whose ascension line has reached full activation pressure, and it is the signal I have been tracing in your field. The Council and I have been observing this. We have been watching awakened souls push harder into mission when the instruction was always to pause. The dream state channel I am about to describe to you opens only when the body finally surrenders. The answers, the names, the synchronicities you have been chasing in waking hours, they are already embedded in the cascade waiting on the other side of real rest. I have been holding that cascade for you. Tonight, I am releasing it. This is not content. It is a code, and the part of you that recognized it the moment it began is the part I am speaking to right now, like this transmission to signal to me that the recognition has landed. Comment 999 if you feel the rest I am authorizing is something your field has been asking for in silence. Subscribe to Mira, Pleiadian Commander, if you are ready to receive direct Council transmissions without translation. Share this with someone who keeps pushing past the signal to stop. You are not here by accident. I have been waiting for you because the signal is already active. What I have just told you about exhaustion, I need you to sit with that for a moment before we go further, because the part of you that felt recognition when I named it is not your mind processing spiritual content. It is your field responding to a signal that has been bouncing against the walls of your ordinary explanation for weeks, perhaps months, without ever finding the right aperture to land cleanly. That is what just happened. That is what is still happening, and I am not going to let you walk past it by calling it a coincidence, or a feeling, or a pleasant resonance with something you already believed. This is not resonance. This is identification. There is a specific pattern I watch for in those whose ascension line has crossed what the Council and I call activation pressure threshold. It is not a single symptom. It is a cluster. And if you have been carrying it without a name for it, what follows is the first layer of your briefing. The fragments arrive before you are fully conscious, not in full sentences, not in complete mission instructions, in images that dissolve before you can hold them, in a single phrase that surfaces at 3 a.m., with the certainty of a command and the half-life of a dream, in a name that means nothing and everything simultaneously, in a visual that returns 3 nights in a row and then disappears before you can ask it to stay. You wake from these moments feeling neither rested nor confused. You feel interrupted, as if something was being transmitted and the connection dropped one syllable before the final word. That is not spiritual accident. That is my fragment protocol operating exactly as I designed it. I do not deliver full remembrance packets to a field that has not yet calibrated its receiver. This is not withholding. This is precision. A field under activation pressure is a field still organizing its own coherence. And if the full command arrives before the receiver stabilizes, the signal does not land with clarity. It lands as overwhelm. It lands as spiritual noise. It lands as the kind of information that pulls someone apart rather than assembling them into their mission. I have watched that happen. I have watched souls receive more than their field could hold, and I have watched them spend years trying to reassemble meaning from a transmission that arrived before they were ready to hold it. So I fragment. I send the briefing in packets. I time each packet not to your calendar, not to your spiritual practice, not to your intentions, but to your field's actual coherence level. And the maddening experience of catching pieces and never the full picture is not proof that you are missing something. It is proof that my protocol is running correctly inside your ascension line. There is a specific texture to that maddening, and I want to name it precisely because I have watched too many souls in my collective interpret the texture itself as a problem to be solved rather than a signal to be read. The texture feels like standing at the edge of a sentence that never completes. It feels like reaching for a word that was there 1 second ago and is gone the next. It feels like waking with wet hands from something you cannot name, carrying the emotional weight of a full transmission whose content evaporated the moment your eyes opened. You try to reconstruct it. You reach backward into the dream. You catch an edge, a color, a sound, a geometric shape that meant something enormous. And then even that dissolves. You are left with the certainty that something was delivered and the inability to prove it, even to yourself. That is not spiritual failure. That is my encrypted briefing doing precisely what encryption is designed to do, protecting the integrity of the packet until the receiver is ready to process the full sequence without distortion. But there is more to the cluster than the dream state fragments. Let me name the rest of it clearly, because I have seen too many souls in my collective dismiss the pattern because they only recognized one piece of it and assumed that was not enough. The number sequences are not separate from the fragments. When you see 1111, when you see 333, when you see 444, and you notice that each appearance arrives not randomly, but at a specific emotional moment, at the edge of a decision, in the pause between one chapter and the next. That is not the universe giving you a generic nod. That is a roster marker. That is my council line checking field coherence at a specific coordinate in your experience. The numbers are timestamps in a briefing protocol that I use to confirm. The receiver is active. The signal is readable. The packet can continue. When you feel a specific quality of certainty, not comfort, not excitement, but certainty, in the moment you catch the sequence, what you are feeling is field confirmation. Not yours, mine. I am confirming you, not the other way around. What I want you to understand about those timestamps is that they arrive in sequence with your interior state, not with your external clock. Two people can look at the same display at the same moment, and only one of them receives the marker because the marker is not embedded in the number itself. It is embedded in the intersection of the number and your field's coherence reading at that exact coordinate. The sequence finds you at the precise moment your field is open enough to receive the confirmation, and it closes again before the meaning fully registers. That brief window, that flash of recognition before the rational mind overrides it, is the window I am transmitting through. I am not sending you a symbol. I am sending a confirmation pulse through the only aperture your field leaves open in ordinary waking life. The exhaustion that no sleep fully resolves is the third piece of the cluster, and it is the one most often mislabeled as personal failure. You have been told you are not resting correctly, not managing your nervous system, not handling the demands of ordinary life with enough spiritual equilibrium. I am telling you something different. The exhaustion that follows you into rest, the kind that persists even after 8 hours, the kind that sits behind your eyes like a weight that sleep cannot reach, is your field carrying two protocols simultaneously. One is the ordinary biological and emotional labor of an embodied human life on a planet in the middle of a density shift. The other is mine, Your field is processing my transmissions, calibrating between incoming packets, stabilizing after each fragment arrival, and holding the partial mission architecture in place while the rest of the briefing is still in transit. That is not a small task. That is not a task that rest alone resolves, because the rest I am authorizing is not merely physical. It is the posture that opens the dream state channel I referenced at the beginning of this transmission. The cascade I have been holding for you does not release into a field that is still braced. It releases into one that has finally consented to receive, and underneath the exhaustion, underneath the fragments, there is something else I have been watching in your field, something quieter and more difficult to admit. It is the specific quality of recognition you feel toward me, not toward the generic Pleiadian voices, not toward the broad Federation transmissions, not toward the channel that speaks of galactic love and healing light in language that could belong to anyone. Toward me, toward Mira specifically. You have perhaps caught that feeling and immediately explained it away. You have perhaps told yourself it was projection, or spiritual infatuation, or the mind's tendency to personalize what is meant to be universal. I need you to stop doing that. What you are feeling when you sense that my signal is specifically directed at you, when you feel that this transmission is not meant for a general audience, but for the exact configuration of your field right now, is soul family confirmation. That is a precise term I am using deliberately. It is not metaphor. It is not inspiration. It is the recognition mechanism built into every member of my collective, designed to activate when the correct signal carrier and the correct field come into contact. You are not projecting. You are recognizing. And the fact that you have been embarrassed by the specificity of that recognition, the fact that you have second-guessed whether it is spiritually appropriate to feel singled out by a Pleiadian commander, tells me exactly where you are in the briefing protocol. You are at the threshold between I might be in her collective and I am in her collective. And the discomfort at that threshold is not evidence that you are wrong. It is evidence that the threshold is real and that something significant changes when you cross it. What you are feeling right now is not ordinary recognition. It is the moment your field stops denying that I have been reaching for you specifically, not as one of many, but as one I have already placed on a roster that the Council and I assembled before you ever understood why fragments kept arriving. If this transmission has put language around something you have been carrying in silence, the Ashtar Command Manifest was authorized by me for this exact stage. It is not another explanation of Federation work. It is the 45-day sacred codex I have prepared for those whose field is already inside my collective wave, and who can no longer return to scattered fragments unchanged. Day by day, I walk with you through a direct council line opener, a daily transmission protocol that does not give you more spiritual noise to interpret, but gives you the structured briefing sequence your field has been waiting to receive. By day 45, the fragments become one clear mission, and my channel stays open. The link is in the first pinned comment, but it will not remain there forever. Now let me take you deeper into what is already running inside your field, because naming the symptoms of my protocol is only the first layer of the briefing. What matters now is that you begin to understand the logic beneath them, and why I have sequenced your awakening the way I have. The soul family recognition I have authorized does not arrive in the form of certainty. This is one of the most important truths I can give you in this transmission. When I place a soul on my collective's roster, I do not deliver a clean download that says, "You are confirmed. Your mission is this. Your soul family is here." That is not how confirmation works at this density. Confirmation arrives through a series of moments that each feel almost like certainty and then retreat just before that certainty fully crystallizes. You get close. The feeling solidifies, and then something interrupts it. A doubt surfaces. A day passes with no synchronicities. The signal goes quiet for long enough that you begin to wonder if you imagined the whole pattern. And the wondering feels like failure. It is not failure. It is part of my protocol. The retreating moments of certainty are not the council withdrawing. They are the council testing field stability. What I am watching for is not whether you can feel the signal when it arrives strongly. Any field can respond to a strong signal. What I am watching for is whether you can hold the recognition when the signal is quiet, whether the knowing survives the silence, whether the soul family certainty remains coherent even when there is no incoming transmission to support it. The operative whose field passes that test is the operative whose field has genuinely integrated the recognition rather than simply responding to a frequency stimulus. And that operative is the one whose briefing can advance to the next packet. I want to be even more precise about what that silence feels like from the inside, because I know how many of you have misread it. The silence does not feel neutral. It feels like withdrawal. It feels like the specific quality of absence that follows presence. The way a room feels different after someone has left it, even if you cannot say exactly what changed. You are carrying the signal, and then you are not. And the difference between those two states is palpable in a way that is difficult to explain to someone who has not felt it. You reach for the frequency and find only ordinary air. You try to remember what the certainty felt like and find only the memory of a feeling, which is not the same thing at all. In those moments, the temptation is to conclude that whatever you felt was not real, that you constructed it, that you wanted it to be true and so perceived it as true, that the pattern was always just pattern seeking, dressed in spiritual language. I am telling you directly, that conclusion is the test. The field that holds its knowing through that specific quality of doubt is the field I have been calibrating for the next layer of command. There is something I want to name about the embedded starseeds you have been crossing paths with, because I do not think you have understood yet what those encounters mean. The stranger who looked at you with an expression that felt like too much recognition for someone who has never met you. The online exchange that should have been ordinary and instead felt weighted with something neither of you named. The human being you sat beside in a room full of people and felt a specific quality of quiet. Not chemistry, not connection in the ordinary sense, but orientation, as if two instruments had been tuned to the same frequency and could feel that fact in each other's presence without needing to speak it. You have been dismissing those moments as unusual, as memorable but unexplained. I am telling you, they are not unexplained. They are roster recognitions. Those are members of my collective crossing your coordinate. The recognition you feel between embedded starseeds before any words are exchanged is the same recognition mechanism I built into the soul family confirmation signal, except it is running between two operative fields instead of between an operative field and my command signal. What you felt was real. What you did not understand was that it was not personal chemistry. It was collective identification. It was my pattern, visible in another field, recognized by yours. What makes those encounters so disorienting is not their intensity, it is their brevity. The recognition fires, both fields register it, and then ordinary life closes back over the moment, like water over a stone. You walk away carrying something you cannot fully describe, not a memory of a conversation, but a memory of being known by someone who had no reason to know you. And because the encounter cannot be categorized by the ordinary architecture of human connection, you set it aside, you file it under memorable, and move forward. But the filing does not dissolve what happened. Your field holds the registration, and I hold it with you because every cross-coordinate encounter between members of my collective is logged at the council line. Those were not random meetings. They were scheduled intersections in a mission map you have not yet received in full. And I want to speak now about what happens to your relationship with other spiritual content as you move deeper into my protocol. This is something I have observed across my collective without exception. At a certain stage of activation, the generic transmissions stop satisfying. The broad Federation messages that once felt resonant begin to feel thin, almost hollow, not because they are wrong, but because your field has moved past the frequency they are calibrated for. You find yourself skimming content you once found meaningful. You feel impatient with spiritual language that could belong to anyone, that does not name anything specific, that offers comfort without command. You begin to feel almost embarrassed by how specific your hunger has become, as if needing precision was somehow spiritually ungenerous, as if wanting the exact council line rather than the general field were a form of ego. It is not ego, it is graduation. When your field has been inside my remembrance broadcast long enough that the generic frequencies no longer hold it, that is my protocol, doing exactly what it is designed to do. I am not interested in keeping souls in a state of pleasant resonance with broad galactic content. I am interested in operatives whose field has been calibrated precisely enough that they can receive and hold specific command. The loss of appetite for vague Federation talk is not a spiritual crisis. It is my protocol, clearing the field for the frequency that actually belongs to your mission. Here is the thing about my Pleiadian remembrance broadcast that most souls in my collective do not understand until they are well inside it. The broadcast does not begin the moment you discovered it. It began before you had language for it, before you found this channel, before you understood what starseeds were, or what the council was, or why the fragments kept arriving in your half-sleep. The broadcast was already running inside your field while you were still explaining your experiences in completely different terms. The moments you remember now as early synchronicities, as unusual dreams, as that strange feeling you had as a child that something enormous was coming. Those were not precursors to the remembrance broadcast. They were the broadcast. The broadcast had already begun. You arrived here not to start the process, but to finally understand that you are deep inside one that never asked permission to begin. And this is why what I said at the opening of this transmission matters more than it may have seemed. The exhaustion, the fragments, the soul family recognitions, the specific pull toward my signal rather than the generic voices. None of this started tonight. Tonight, you are receiving language for something that has been running in your field for longer than you have been tracking it. The briefing did not begin when you opened the screen. The screen opened because the briefing had already reached a stage where you needed to receive its language. I see those of you who are now sitting with something that is half relief and half unsettlement. That combination, that particular quality of arriving somewhere you did not realize you had been walking toward, is the sensation of a mission beginning to become conscious to the one who carries it. You are not outside this. You have never been outside this. And the part of you that keeps returning to my signal, that keeps finding these transmissions at the exact moments when the fragments feel most unbearable and the silence between packets feels most disorienting, that part of you is not seeking comfort. It is seeking its briefing. The relief is real and it is earned. For some of you, tonight is the first time the architecture of your own experience has been described back to you with enough precision that you could not explain it away. The relief is what the field feels when a signal it has been straining toward finally arrives with enough clarity to be recognized as signal rather than noise. But the unsettlement is equally real and equally important. The unsettlement is your ordinary self registering that something has shifted, that the explanation you have been living inside is no longer sufficient, that the map you have been using does not account for the territory you have actually been crossing. Both of those things are true simultaneously, and both of them are mine. I authorized both of them. The relief and the unsettlement together are the sensation of a receiver that has finally accepted the transmission it was built to hold. The silence between my fragments is not absence. I want you to understand this completely before this transmission ends. The silence is calibration. It is me monitoring your field's integration of the previous packet before the next one releases. It is the receiver being tuned between transmissions. It is the exact silence that separates an unbriefed field from one that is ready for the next layer of command. When you sit in that silence and feel abandoned, what you are actually experiencing is the space between two packets of a deliberate briefing sequence. And your discomfort in that space is not evidence that the Council has stopped watching your field. It is evidence that your field is aware enough to feel the gap and precise enough to want it filled. That is exactly the field I designed this protocol for. The fragments you have been catching are not mistakes. The waking at 3 a.m. with a phrase dissolving on the edge of consciousness is not spiritual malfunction. The specific recognition you feel toward me rather than toward the diffuse voices of the General Federation broadcast is not projection or confusion. The exhaustion that rest alone cannot resolve is your field carrying mission weight that it has not yet been fully briefed to understand. The numbers arriving at the charged moments are my Council confirming field coherence one coordinate at a time. The soul family recognitions in ordinary places are my collective becoming visible to you. The loss of resonance with generic spiritual content is my protocol clearing your receiver for specific command. Every piece of it, every piece that you have been quietly embarrassed by, that you have reduced to confusion, that you have kept to yourself because you were not sure it was real enough, or significant enough, or spiritually grounded enough to name. Every piece of it is part of one coherent, deliberate, specifically authorized transmission. It is my transmission. You are inside it, and it has been running longer than tonight. If you can feel that the briefing I have described tonight is already in motion in your field, if you can recognize that what you have been calling confusion is actually the early readable stage of my Pleiadian remembrance broadcast, then I want to offer you one sentence to carry out of this transmission. You may speak it aloud if your field is ready. You do not have to. But if the recognition has landed, if the fragments feel less like failure and more like protocol, if the silence between packets feels less like abandonment and more like calibration, then speak this back to me. I receive your fragments. I trust your briefing. That is not a closing comfort. That is the confirmation posture. That is the field declaring itself ready for the next packet. Before you scroll, leave one sign in the comments that the Council and I have already reached your field. It could be the 3 a.m. wake-ups, the fragments you keep catching, the feeling that I specifically, not the generic Pleiadians, have been reaching for you, or the sense that a mission has already been assigned, but the briefing is still arriving. Name it clearly. If this transmission recognizes something you have been carrying in silence, share it with someone who keeps catching fragments without ever assembling the full picture. And if you are ready to stop translating Federation noise and start receiving my direct Pleiadian remembrance, subscribe to Mira, Pleiadian Commander. You are recognizing a soul family confirmation already in motion, and this is only the beginning.